Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. This is the show where between my guest interviews with subject matter experts and topic-specific deep dives, the aim is to arm you with actionable insights and information on how to prioritize your metabolic health and improve your overall health and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. I'm your host, Nick Tiscoe, and today I have a brilliant guest with me, Nick Tiscoe. Welcome to the podcast, sir. I've invited you on because I've come to admire your work in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the corporate community space. And I'd love to talk to you a bit about that.
Thanks for having me on.
So, Nick, I wonder if you can just give our audience a brief little introduction to yourself. Who are you? Where have you come from? What are you doing?
Yeah, cool. So my name's Nick Tiscoe. I live in Newquay in Cornwall, in the UK. Originally, actually, from outside London. I've floated between the two over the years. I've been a surfer first and foremost for over 30 years. A sometimes aspiring big wave surfer when I can work on the challenges required to approach that field. I'm also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I'm a second degree black belt. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu for about 15 years. I run my own club. It's called North Shore BJJ, and that's based in Newquay. And I also have broadened my my approach to work and community and things like that by developing networking events around Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So we get people together and they have a common interest of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and actually predominantly it's with cybersecurity, the networking events I've been doing, because I worked for a short time in recruitment in cybersecurity and I met a lot of good people that way. And I found that those people were also into jiu-jitsu, technical mindset and that kind of thing. So that's, I like to think I build communities, and the things that I've learned from surfing and from jiu-jitsu have helped me to do that.
That's awesome. Thank you. So we have a couple of things in common there. So I'm an avid surfer. I grew up surfing in South Africa. I've been surfing for, how old am I now? 40 this year. And I've been surfing since I was 11. So what's that, 29 years? Landlocked in the UK now. So yeah, not quite getting in the water as often as I want to. But the advent of wave pools have been a game changer in that space. And I'm actually going to be spending some time at the Wave over in Bristol from next week. I've got 4 consecutive Thursdays where I'm going to be there and sort of make use of a winter bundle that I got for Christmas from my wife. So looking forward to that. And then I've also, I haven't been on the mat since 2019, but I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've got an MMA background from back in South Africa. And of course, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the core disciplines to sort of build your ground game and round off your MMA skills. And then getting punched in the head is not necessarily conducive to good health outcomes. So I sort of had one pro amateur fight. I got knocked out really badly, caught a flying knee and got knocked out good and solid. And then reassessed things because, yeah, the recovery from that wasn't exactly stellar. And just reassessed things and decided, you know what, okay, it's probably not best to do that long term, but I love the ground game. So I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu nowhere near the level of your good self. I think I was a 3-stripe white belt, but then took a sabbatical to finish my master's degree. And I just, then COVID happened and I had more kids and just haven't got back on the mats yet. But as the kids get a bit older and get a bit more independent, I hope to be able to take that back up again.
Well, you must come to the next networking event that I'm doing, because it's quite a relaxed way to get on the mat. We've had people actually come back into jiu-jitsu with a very similar story to you, where they've really let things go. And then because of the environment that we create, it's not a competitive environment. It's just a collaborative environment. And it's a really good opportunity for people to say, you know what, now's the time to get back on. And I'll make some friends a little bit wider. It's a really great way to get your toe back in the water. So rather than walking into one club and saying, now I've got to love it or hate it, and I've got to be committed to these people, in the networking environment that I do, you know, yes, you'll be in a club. Yes, you'll have a gi on. Yes, you'll do jiu-jitsu, but
This episode is brought to you thanks to my work as a Zinzino independent partner. To find out more about Zinzino's product offering within test-based personalized nutrition, or to find out about how to join as an independent partner yourself and build a revenue stream in helping others take the guesswork out of their personal health journeys, please stay tuned because I'll be sharing information later in this episode.
If you don't like the room full of people there, you haven't committed to them anyway, and also you might not like them, but at least you know that these people are spread from far and wide, so they don't represent exactly everybody, or they won't represent necessarily the club that you're going to end up in.
That's awesome.
Come and join in with us, and
I'd love to.
Be stoked to give you the push, and that's one of my big drivers and motivations with jiu-jitsu is on helping people to get stuck in. I really feel that as a coach, like the desire to hear an objection or an obstacle from somebody and then find a way to kind of persuade, coerce, encourage them back into the field and to do it, and to realize that, like what you've got with your plans with your professional life, that as long as you start and you start moving, then you're only moving forward, and you don't have to move forward fast. You just have to keep doing it a little bit, and consistency could even be once a week or even once a month. As long as it is ongoing, then it's consistency. Obviously, the more you do, the easier it becomes quicker.
No, I do look forward to getting back into it, and I'm quite a competitive person by nature, so I want to compete again. So yeah, I just need time. There's a lot going on at the moment, juggling day job and sort of side job. So there's effort being put into that, and I think a good way to frame that in your mind is if you think of a show like Grey's Anatomy or something like that. You have your people who come on and they want to be surgeons, and they go through medical school, and then they have a period of residency where they're basically living up the hospital and working crazy hours and going through that whole sort of hell period to come out the other side with the higher qualification and the lifestyle that they want. I think that's true of any profession for anyone. There's a period in time where if you have goals and you know where you want to get to, you need to break that down into small incremental steps and have a plan to get there. And there's a period of time where you're going to have to put the investment in, put the work in, and make the sacrifices involved to achieve the outcome that you're after. So I'm definitely in that space at the moment where I've got a vision of what I want to do with my life, and I'm making the incremental steps in that direction while still maintaining the day job that looks after the family, keeps food on the table, roof over our heads, etc., etc. So it's good busy time. But once we're through that, 100% back on the mats and have that as a regular part of my own metabolic regime, as it were. So metabolic health being the theme of the podcast, I've reached out to you because I've come to recognize that stuff that you do is quite important to metabolic health. And I appreciate that you may not have made these connections, but I wonder if we can talk through that a little bit. So I'll start by asking you, what does metabolic health mean to you? We can have a little discussion around that, and then we'll move into how I see the connections fit together.
Yeah, I think from my kind of perspective, like I'd said to you earlier, that I wouldn't have a really clear answer to that specific question. But the way that I approach life is to, look at different components that I believe would make up that metabolic health, from nutrition and sleep and exercise and mental health. And I approach those different things all the time. So I understand that they, the thing, like you said, the things that I do really contribute quite highly. I am also aware that, for myself, there are missing elements that I would like to tackle myself. And so to have a good, clear understanding of that meaning might actually even help me. I may be contributing well to a lot of people with what I do. And I think that I do, and it may be improving my own health, but I'm also aware there's always something to learn. So I don't think that's the clearest answer, but
that's great. Great,
But
great place
but
to
I do
start.
believe that a lot of the broad things I do would probably fit into what you're talking about, and that perhaps there's a few gaps that I need to fill in, and actually sleep being one of them. So I, I know this is a huge element for everybody's health and well-being, and probably one of the most overlooked, but maybe increasing in understanding. But for me, if you take myself, I will fall asleep when my head hits the pillow, and
Yes.
I don't need any encouragement. However, I will often wake up in the middle of the night or too early. And sometimes that's a good thing because I don't need an alarm clock. I will wake up, and I would definitely wake up at 6:30, 7 o'clock. I just don't want to get up. So, and so I think that my sleep is something that I definitely is a weakness. And I know
Okay.
that a lot of the healing and repair it needs to come in that area. But I am addressing things in my life that I think may help, and but that might take a little bit of time. So yeah, I'm interested to learn more though on the whole kind of look at this metabolic standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So good. I would say that awareness is the first step towards optimization. So it's good that you're aware that sleep is something that you want to work on and can improve on. And most people sort of run around thinking that they're doing what is required, not realizing that they're lacking in areas. So you're in a good place. Metabolic health, as I would frame it, and it's not the sort of dictionary definition as such, but it's the way that I've come to conceptualize it because I think it's more functional and more useful. Um, you could use it interchangeably with cellular health. So metabolic health, cellular health. And what I'm talking about is your health at the level of your individual cells and their particular functions, whether that be their absorption of nutrients and things that they need to do their job, and then the expression of the various hormones and enzymes and stuff that then go on to function in other cascades of the body that make up your organs and your systems of the body and your overall being, whether it's your mental health and your physical health. So for me, breaking it down to the very smallest possible level, the level of the individual cell, and making sure that you're doing not doing perfectly, but at least putting effort into various lifestyle factors that contribute to the health of the individual cells, you can then rest assured that the overall is being taken care of by default.
Yeah.
I've done a series for my Substack, which I call the 5 pillars of metabolic health. And best I can tell, these 5 things are what you would call ancestrally appropriate. Now, whether you're coming at it from a creationist perspective or evolutionary perspective, it's neither here nor there, because these 5 things remain true regardless of how you want to frame how we came to be. And what I mean by that is the way our bodies function, we have 5 key inputs which help to regulate our cellular level activity. These are nutrition, sleep, exercise, light exposure, and grounding. And these 5 things work interchangeably, meaning that no one thing is more important than the other. It may be that in your individual health journey, you have one area that needs more work than the other areas, but all 5 areas seem to interplay and work on the function of your individual cells in very similar manners. And what people tend to do is they get divided into tribes, and you'll have people in the nutrition tribe who think that nutrition is the be all and end all of life. And as long as your nutrition's on point, everything else is fine. It's not necessarily true. You still need to be looking after the other 4 areas. The same with exercise. You'll have people who think that as long as the exercise is being done, then you can sort of eat what you want and get away with it, and sleep when you want and get away with it. Not necessarily true. You also need to be paying attention to the other areas. And so these 5 things really form the foundation of your core metabolic health. And it's wise to structure your lifestyle in such a way that you know you're investing into each of the 5 on a daily basis. That's where I'm coming from with metabolic health. And the reason I wanted to speak to you is the stuff that you're doing in the jiu-jitsu space helps people look after the exercise component and also a community component, which I think is vitally important because it becomes the sort of the glue, the thing that bonds people together and helps them to form habits and lifestyle out of something, rather than it just being a one-off event and then they lose motivation and drift off into the ether. So that's really awesome. You're a second degree black belt. When did you start jiu-jitsu and how long did it take you to get to the point where you are now?
I started jiu-jitsu in 2010.
Okay.
And it's very, very typical of, everybody that does it hit incredible enthusiasm. And I had an initial goal was I wanted to get black belt before I was 40 and I was 30 at the time. So that would kind of be reasonable, but I really kind of wanted it to be, I'd heard of a couple of people who were quite quick, and I don't know why I wanted to be quick, but I just did. And I realized it was going to be a lot harder than that, though. And that, those people were probably quite special in some way, or the access that they had or to training or whatever it must be. And I kind of thought, I'm not sure this is even going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'd be happy if I could just make it to blue belt. And again, that's pretty typical, whether people understand it or not, because a lot of people quit as blue belts. There's this idea of blue belt-itis, where they get the blue belt and then that's it. The sickness kicks in and they quit. And so all the romance and all the enthusiasm's gone, and they realize just quite how hard it is. But I didn't quit, and I carried on. And through some unusual events and not things that I planned to do, I ended up running my own club as a purple belt. So, which is okay. And it happens more and more. And I've actually got a student or two students right now who are affiliates of my club, and they're purple belts and they've got their own small clubs. But obviously that's not why you start jiu-jitsu. And it can happen because you're enthusiastic and you want to help other people and you want to build something. So it did. And then but it probably does accelerate. It has the opportunity to accelerate your learning and understanding, depending on how you approach teaching people. And it worked well for me because I am a coach. I've been coaching surfing for many years at that point anyway. And I've been a personal trainer. So I think my approach to learning and coaching was good and strong. And so ultimately, I reached black belt in 2018. So 8 years.
Yeah, that's pretty good going.
Pretty good. And I didn't really think about it. I just pushed on. And the next thing I knew, I'd competed numerous times at the European Championships in Lisbon at purple belt and brown belt. And then I ended up with the black belt, and I didn't hassle anybody for this honor or recognition. I think it came naturally. And my teacher, a guy called Kev Capel, who's based in Aylesbury, he's a black belt under Roger Gracie. We've got really great lineage. And he recognized, ultimately, I feel like he recognized what I was doing and my approach to my students and building something and my approach to training. And I was willing to put myself in a competitive environment. So 8 years. And then I reached black belt, which is quick. It is reasonably quick. Some people might argue it's too quick, but I feel like I carry the responsibility well. I wear the belt well, and I've built up a really great club. I've got a lot of good guys. I've got guys up at brown belt now under me, including my wife, who started as a white belt, and all the way through she's trained with me, and now she's a brown belt.
Very nice.
With a couple of stripes, and numerous other people, and people who've come in with nothing and no expectation, and really unlikely people who've done well now, as well as people you would expect to do well. But I think it's really interesting if you can find somebody that has a club, or if you find a club and there's members within that club that you think that's an unlikely person for jiu-jitsu in there, but they seem to be doing well. That's a good testament. And also we have a diverse mixture of people within our club. We've got a lot of women that train. And I think that's a really good statement to, how the culture of a club is. And hopefully a good, I would say it's a good reflection on me as a coach and
Yeah,
My
yeah,
approach with
100%.
it. So if I got my black belt quickly, I think I did earn it still. I put in a lot of time. People don't always see what everybody does. There were times where I was training twice a day. There were, and 6-7 days a week. So
That's true of many things, Nick, and success viewed from the outside. There's always people seeing the success, but not seeing the absolute mountain of effort underneath it that it took to get there. And so, well done. In your personal health journey, how would you say, given the gift of hindsight and being able to look back 2010 to 2018 and even now to 2025, how has jiu-jitsu helped your physical health?
Hugely, hugely. I mean, people throw around memes and say, "Oh, the master's athlete crawling out of bed in the morning. He's full of aches and pains and this and that." But who isn't when they're reaching into their 40s? And also you can complement your training in many ways. And I, at times, neglected the strength training because I was just doing so much surfing and so much jiu-jitsu that having time and mental energy to go to the gym was hard. But if I was to advise myself, I'd go back and do more and just to complement it. But I think the whole moving about physically in the way that we do, I still move around really well. I can keep up with a lot of young guys in jiu-jitsu. And I don't find the positions that I end up in particularly bad. There's a couple of things I try to avoid, and there's a couple of things I try to make sure I've got good structural integrity, because forces applied can be problematic. But I don't stand with those people that think that joke. I mean, they kind of joke around that jiu-jitsu can be bad for you. It's like everything can be bad for you if you don't do it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and things break under tension. If you're allowing tension to build, and that can be within the moment of sparring and an exchange of a positional exchange, or it could just be over time, and the tension is building and building and building, and eventually something's going to break. And all those components, the metabolic components will also factor in there. That can lead towards things. So I think that jiu-jitsu's benefited me incredibly well in my general understanding of movement day to day and like what I can expect from my body, but also into my other sport, into surfing. For if I'm in surfing in challenging conditions and the sea's a little rough and the waves are big, and in the past I might have hit a bit of chop and been flung off my board. Now the ocean's going to try a little bit harder to do that to me, because just like my students that try to sweep me in jiu-jitsu, you're going to have to do better than that. You're going to have to make it really count if you want to take me down, because I've got an understanding of my base and how to apply my balance and respond to the turbulence, if you like, of hard sparring and also bumpy waves. So it's really has carried over into surfing and really helped me push into bigger waves in surfing as well as an older guy as well. It wasn't something I did when I was...
You say old, which don't look
older.
So you clearly looked after yourself quite well. How old are you at the moment, if I may ask?
I'm 45 years old.
45. You're still a spring chicken. I turned 40 this August, so 40 is the new 20. Right? So yeah, that's...
I would smash 20-year-old Nick.
Oh, I'll ragdoll
in and out the water. The only thing that I did better when I was younger was running. I don't really run anymore. I don't like it too much. I'd rather cycle or swim any day of the week. Running is not my thing. I feel like that's the fastest way to wear out your body. People joke about jiu-jitsu. I think running is a way to wear out your body.
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, we have unique adaptations for running, and again, like this being more from an evolutionary perspective, if you look at human physiology.
I got to say that. Carry on, yeah.
And how we differentiate from the apes. There's unique adaptations in our hips and our ankles and stuff like that, which lend themselves to endurance running, and in theory being chasing down prey and stuff like that. Because we're not the fastest moving animal. So we definitely weren't going to like sprint down a rabbit and catch a rabbit or a deer or anything like that, but we were able to run for long periods of time. Don't like it, and I don't run unless I'm being chased by something I can't fight. So if I can fight it, I'll stand my ground and fight it rather than run. So I'm with you on that. But yeah, so you've touched on a couple of good things there. So movement being one, and I think a lot of people get caught up picturing exercise as being energy balance only, and they have this conceptualization in their head where they use exercise just to manage body composition and completely overlook movement and function and mobility. And I turned 40 this August, you're 45. We're both people who have spent a good amount of time looking after our bodies. And I have physical function that I didn't have in my late 20s when I was really out of shape and really not in a good way. And I think a lot of people accept certain decline in their bodies as just aging, when the reality is it's got nothing to do with age, it's got to do with neglect. So as a 45-year-old man who has looked after himself physically, let's play a little game of let's dispel some common myths. Right? So everyone thinks that once you're past 30, losing certain ability is just part of aging. For example, standing and putting your hands flat on the floor with your legs straight, sort of like going down, touching your toes, getting into different positions. You and I both I've done jiu-jitsu, you do jiu-jitsu. So I understand some of the positions that you get put into, and the regular sort of office jockey who doesn't look after the exercise or maybe jumps in a cardio machine a couple of times a week will break themselves being put into that position because they haven't looked after their mobility. So talk us through, from your perspective, what you think might be things that people associate as just aging, but actually aren't.
I think, the lot of ideas about whether they should even play. That they've got into a pattern of life where everything is so serious. Their responsibilities are serious. Their job is serious. There is pressure, and it's serious. But being able to switch that off at the right time and remember that in your free time, perhaps you shouldn't take life so seriously and you should figure out a way to play. And doing something like jiu-jitsu or surfing, and then many other sports as well, that you can be doing and other activities of play. And the only reason really that you get old is because you stop playing.
Yes.
You shouldn't, and I have this is a quote I love, you shouldn't stop playing because you're getting old, because now you're assigning that age thing to yourself. And I think there are other things that people will say are just a consequence of getting old. I don't sleep so well because I'm getting old. It's not. It's because as you're getting old, you're neglecting yourself and various approaches, and that's why. And I know that for myself. And I don't eat so well because I'm getting old. And it's like, well, you just know. It's just because you just not eat well. Or you might not get away with it as well, what you did when you were younger. Used to get out the surf and just eat burgers. But perhaps that's, as you're getting older, you need to pay a little bit more attention. But there's no reason why you can't keep playing. But you just can't play in the same way. You don't get away with playing in the same way, but you can still play the same game.
I think if I was to explain that, I was having a chat with a chap last night. And through our teens in our early 20s, we have what I would call the elixir of youth on our side. And your hormones are high. You're sort of...
Hey everyone, I hope that you are enjoying the discussion so far. I apologize for interrupting the episode, but I just want to take a moment to talk to you about the work that I do with Zinzino. Zinzino are a brilliant Scandinavian biotech and life sciences firm.
Their concept of test-based personalized nutrition is absolutely revolutionary, and they are the pioneers of test-based personalized nutrition. I use their products and solutions myself and my family. In fact, we use multiple of their products. And Zinzino has been instrumental in helping me identify that I was omega-3 deficient, horrendously so, and to get my omega-3 deficiency resolved. You see, their at-home tests give you the data and insights needed to inform your dietary strategy to see whether you have any key essential nutrient deficiencies or imbalances that need addressing. And where you do, they have targeted supplementation stacks that are personalized to you according to your age, sex, and body weight, which means they are most effective to get you back to optimal. This isn't about just avoiding deficiency. This is about getting you back to optimal, and that's a complete and utter game changer. So if you would like to know more, I have linked a short survey in the episode description. Complete the survey. It asks you some simple questions about your health goals and desires. It takes less than a minute to complete, and what I'll give you off the back of that is a personalized product recommendation out of Zinzino solution catalog, telling you which I think best suit your desires and needs and why. I'll then also personally reach out to you to see if there's any questions or queries that I can answer. Let me take the guesswork out of your health journey.
People misconceptualize it as the peak of the prime of your life. I think it's wrong. That you're just starting to head towards your prime, and your hormones are high and increasing, and you're able to get away with a lot more. And so you're able to abuse yourself, you're able to not look after yourself, but avoid many of the consequences in the short term. But those consequences aren't completely avoided, they're delayed. And over time, so as you go through your 20s into your 30s, the build-up of those consequences starts to catch up with you. And I think a lot of what people misconceptualize as part of aging is the overaccumulation of neglect that then starts, like the chicken comes home to roost kind of thing. And you're hitting your 30s and suddenly you sleep with your neck in a funny angle and you can't move for the next couple of days. And that's neglect. It's chronic inflammation. It's nutritional deficiencies. It's lack of sleep. It's neglect built up over a period of time. And then people usually wait until they're in their 40s or 50s for some obscure reason. And I don't understand it. But if I'm connected with a lot of health coaches and talking to a lot of them, their client base, if you have a look, tends to be people in their late 40s or early 50s, because there's something about that midlife point where people wake up and realize, crap, like I've got less time ahead of me than what I have behind me. I need to start taking care of myself. And many people are able to reverse a lot of the neglect, but sadly, they don't necessarily get rid of it all. And I think what I'd like, one of my visions for the podcast is to help the younger generations, people in their 20s, people in their 30s, understand that just because you're getting away with it right now doesn't mean that you're getting away with it. All you're doing is kicking the can down the road. That neglect and that misalignment of lifestyle will come home to roost at some point. So why not just take an assessment of your lifestyle and build a lifestyle which looks after your health instead of neglecting your health and waiting for your 40s or your 50s where you have your crisis moment and join the rest of us and going, I need to look after this.
I think that's a tough message to sell, though.
It is.
Because having got kids, and I can see what I was like now as a teenager. I try to give advice, and they're just like, what are you talking about, old man?
I was exactly the same. I came to the realization yesterday. I snapped the ACL ligament in my left knee in 2003. I was 17, turning 18 at the time, playing first team rugby trials with Glenwood High School in Durban, South Africa. And snapped the ligament, had it replaced, snapped it a year later. And looking back on it, and again, hindsight being 2020, I didn't rehab that knee properly because I had never had to put dedicated effort into anything physical in my life at that point. At that point, I was built like a Greek god, in fantastic shape, because I just enjoyed playing the sports. I didn't have to, I ate like crap. I was in boarding school at Glenwood, and we would eat everything in between bread. Like, it didn't matter if it was a burger or something, you'd still take bread and like put your burger in between bread and eat that. Like, we ate terribly, but we played so much sport, and we were young, so we got away with it. And so I didn't rehab the leg properly because I'd never had to put dedicated effort in my life. The doctors, the surgeon, the biokinetist, that they all talked me through what I should do rehab wise. And I was like, I'll be fine. Like, carry on. And then I ruptured it again. Realized, oh no, you're not going to be fine. And I've been without since. Yesterday I realized that I've been missing my ACL for longer than what I ever had it in the first place. And I was like, wow, man, like, how am I getting that old? Oh, so yeah, I'm 100% with you. It is a very, very hard line to sell because young people feel invincible. They've got the advantage of the elixir of youth still on their side. And they probably listen to this and think we're talking actually rubbish.
Yeah.
A couple of old men having a grumble, but they will learn, and hopefully there'll be a couple of them that are forward thinking and go, you know what, I don't want to go down that path. Let me make some changes while I can.
Yeah, I did. I got inspired myself on looking after myself quite young, to be perfectly honest. I broke my ankle,
Okay.
and then that got better 6 weeks, whatever. And then literally a week later, having been back in the water surfing, I sprained the other ankle.
Oh.
And oh no, it was sprained first, broke second. That was the order. Either way, they were basically the same injury. I had rolled my ankles consecutively, and I was pretty upset about it because it meant
it's a hard hand to be dealt.
Yeah, it's such a stupid injury. It's a small thing, but you can't function without it. And I got told that, oh, it'll never be the same again. And I was like, what? You'll always, somebody goes, oh, once you've done your ankle there, just keep rolling, you know? And I was like, I wasn't having that.
Challenge accepted.
I was just like, I can't have this happen again. So I started getting interested in stuff. I mean, I was already such a keen surfer and I knew how to be fit, but I didn't really do anything else. And so I started doing, I got into stretching as it happens and hydration. And that was like the first thing that I did. And then and that was about 18 years old, I think 19. And then as I got into my early 20s, I really started taking fitness seriously. I started working in a gym and I ate well. I was reading all the time about stuff to do with personal training, how to train people, how to be, physically better off with fitness and with nutrition. And I didn't drink. I stopped drinking. And I was teetotal for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And I'm again, really, I wouldn't say I won't drink, but I just don't. If I was in a room and I just really wanted to because there's a friend or whatever, or my brother or something like that, and he'd say, oh, you want to have a drink? I would. I wouldn't be like, I can't do that because I don't drink. But I just don't. And I was with friends last week. We met up with some friends we haven't seen for a while. And I think I had one beer the whole week and they're all drinkers. And I would sit with them, have a laugh with them. And, there's a group of guys, but I didn't feel the need to. And I think that's helped me out. That idea that you talk about, people kicking the can down the road. Well, I didn't, but I just felt like looking after myself. And because I was learning, becoming a trainer, and I started to go, wow, this stuff makes a huge difference. And I think that's the reason why I don't have a lot of gray hair, and I don't.
I blame wife and kids. That's.
I get a little bit into beard. But I see people younger than me, and I can tell that they seem older than me. And I have my own way of kind of feeling my age or whatever you want to say. But I am also aware that some of the stuff has paid me back from looking after myself when I was young. But nobody told me to do it, other than that one thing where they said your ankle's never going to be the same. And I was terrified about it. I'll tell you now, my ankles are fine. I've once since rolled my ankle, and it was a really stupid thing as well. Just another dumb injury, but I do all kinds of stuff, and I don't touch wood. I don't roll my ankles. They're good. I've hurt my knees surfing. I've hurt my knees in jiu-jitsu. And people would say the same about that. Oh, that's it. It's like, no, you can prehab. After you've done your rehab, you can prehab so you don't do it again, and you can do other things, and you can eat better and hydrate more. And I don't have huge problems with that. I'm not also say, on things like that, it's like when are you going into life afraid of hurting yourself, you're probably going to hurt yourself. There's a build up of tension right there, just being afraid of it. So
I like something that you've said there. You framed it as you prehab rather than rehab. And I think that's quite profound. We're brought up and we're taught to treat our health in a reactionary method. And what I mean by that is you assume everything's fine until something goes wrong. And then you're also taught to outsource your health because when something goes wrong, then you need to go see someone to help you diagnose what's gone wrong and to give you something to take to fix it. And I think it would be tremendously beneficial to people to let go of that reactionary mindset and to start take a proactive or a preventative mindset and to start understanding what their health needs in terms of inputs and to start to structure their lifestyle in such a way that they're pursuing optimal. It doesn't have to be perfect, but consistency is key to success, not perfection. And if you're consistently doing things as part of your day-to-day lifestyle, which are in pursuit of optimal outcomes, you definitely set yourself up for success in the long term.
Yeah. And also, if you take that reactionary approach to life, you're going to look around you at the people around you, or you're going to go to the doctor, and they're not going to tell you anything useful. They're going to say, take the pill or take a rest or whatever. But that just settles the immediate thing down. It doesn't actually help you in the long run. Next time, the same thing's going to happen again. So if you're proactive and take responsibility for yourself, take a little bit of a prehab approach to life, the fact that you be drinking a lot of water, you now don't have to say, doctor, I've got a headache. What can I do? And he goes, take this medication. You wouldn't have a headache if you were drinking enough water. Probably the biggest singular cause of headaches and migraines is just dehydration. So
those good points. Good points. Before we close off, something that I like to ask my guests is, if you were to give the audience a single takeaway, what would your single takeaway for this episode be that would resonate with them and they would keep in mind for the week ahead?
Well, I'd be torn a little bit between, just take the step forward, in what you want to achieve, and then also that idea of taking responsibility for yourself. And by that, you're obviously still going to look for the support if you take responsibility for yourself, but you need to go out and look for it, and it's going to be way further than your immediate circle, probably. If you want to overcome your perceived life obstacles of age and things like that, don't go to the doctors. I mean, go to the doctors to get some baseline checks and then compare that up with some deeper advice that's out there, and take charge. And there's a lot of answers out there. There's a lot of ways to improve your life, and to move forward, and to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And it's easy to be put off, and I think a lot of people who are comfortable doing what they were doing would advise you differently. They just say, don't do that. That's, be careful. Don't overdo it. It's like, yeah, I'd agree. Don't overdo it. don't overdo the laziness or the, kind of complacency.
Yes.
Be proactive and go read as well. There's so many bites that you can have with, social media and those kind of things. They'll just keep telling you the same thing. And if you've got in a negative spiral, that's all you're going to read on social media. So go get a book and read that, because it'll keep you away from algorithms and things like that. You'll actually perhaps learn something a little bit more deeper.
It's awesome. Well, Nick, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. I'd love to carry this on even further. I think we've got a lot more that we can dig into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll definitely have you back on for a future episode.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Thanks, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the episode. I hope that you found the conversation meaningful and informative, and I hope that it has empowered you with some tools and insights that you can take to tweak and improve your own lifestyle approach in pursuit of optimal metabolic health outcomes. If you've enjoyed the episode, and if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd like you to do me the kindness of please subscribing to the channel, giving it a like, maybe even giving it a share. Help to raise awareness and get the podcast in front of as many viewers as possible, because it is my passion to try and help as many people as possible to understand more of the nuance around metabolic health and how to tweak their lifestyle in pursuit of optimal outcomes. Also, if you have any constructive feedback, things that you think I could improve on, any critiques, any criticisms, please do feed them back. I give you my solemn word that I will take them seriously, and I will, to the best of my ability, work to improve and to give you a more refined and more targeted product as a result of your feedback. So I will take it seriously, and I'll do what I can to improve the show. But again, thank you very much for watching. Keep thriving.